I was 11 years old the first time my parents trusted me to stay home alone. We lived in a quiet suburb outside of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of neighborhood where nothing ever happened. Cookie-cutter houses, neatly trimmed lawns, and the same 3 cars parked in the same driveways every single night. My parents were going to a dinner party 2 streets over. They'd be gone for 3 hours, maybe 4. My mom left the number on the fridge, kissed my forehead, and told me to lock the door behind them. I remember feeling so grown up. For the first hour, everything was fine. I watched TV, made myself a bowl of cereal for dinner, and enjoyed the freedom of having the house to myself. It was November, so it got dark early. By 6:30, the windows were black mirrors reflecting the living room back at me. That's when I first heard it. A soft thump from upstairs. I muted the TV and listened. Our house was old, built in the 1970s, and it made noises all the time. Settling, my dad called it. I told myself that's all it was, but then I heard it again. Not a creak, not the house settling. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the floor directly above me, my parents' bedroom. My heart started pounding. I grabbed the cordless phone from the coffee table and held it against my chest like a shield. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Maybe a squirrel got into the attic. Maybe I was imagining it. Then the footsteps stopped, right at the top of the stairs. I couldn't see the staircase from where I was sitting, but I knew exactly where it was. Just around the corner, through the dining room. The light was off in that part of the house. I hadn't thought to turn it on. For a long moment, there was nothing. Just silence and the blood rushing in my ears. Then, very slowly, I heard the first stair creak. Someone was coming down. I don't remember making the decision to move. 1 second, I was frozen on the couch. The next, I was running. Through the kitchen, out the back door, across the yard in my socks. I didn't stop until I reached the Hendersons' house 3 doors down. Mrs. Henderson found me on her porch, shaking and unable to speak. She called my parents. My dad came home immediately and searched the entire house with a baseball bat, while a neighbor called the police. They found the back window of my parents' bedroom wide open. The screen had been removed and placed neatly against the wall inside the room. Whoever it was had been in the house before my parents even left. The police said it looked like someone had been waiting for the house to empty out, waiting for me to be alone. They never caught anyone. Nothing was stolen, no fingerprints, no signs of forced entry other than the window. But here's the part that still keeps me awake sometimes, even 20 years later. When the police searched the house, they found a closet door in my parents' bedroom standing open. My mom always kept that closet closed. Always. This happened when I was 9. We lived in a small ranch-style house in rural Texas, about 20 minutes outside of Abilene. Our nearest neighbor was half a mile down the road. At night, you couldn't see a single light from our property, just darkness and stars. My mom worked the night shift at a hospital in town. Most nights, my older brother Kyle was supposed to watch me, but he was 16 and had better things to do. That night, he'd snuck out to meet his girlfriend, leaving me alone without telling anyone. I didn't mind at first. I liked being by myself. I played video games in the living room until around 10 p.m., then turned off most of the lights and got ready for bed. That's when the knocking started. 3 slow knocks at the front door. I froze in the hallway, toothbrush still in my hand. We never got visitors at night, not out there. The only people who ever came to our door were the mailman and sometimes our neighbor, Mr. Jeffries, and he certainly wouldn't come by at 10 p.m. I didn't move. I barely breathed. After about 30 seconds of silence, the knocking came again. 3 knocks, same rhythm, same pace. Knock, knock, knock. I crept toward the living room, staying low, keeping away from the windows. The front door had a small window at the top, but I was too short to see through it without standing on something. I thought about calling my mom. I thought about calling 911, but part of me, the stupid, childish part, kept saying it was probably nothing. Probably Kyle forgot his key. Probably a lost traveler needing directions. The knocking stopped. I waited in the dark for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 5 minutes. When nothing else happened, I started to relax. I convinced myself it was over. Then I heard it at the back door. Knock, 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 the same slow rhythm. Whoever it was had walked around the house. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and hid in the closet with the phone. I called my mom, but she didn't answer. She was probably with a patient. I called Kyle's cell, but it went straight to voicemail. The knocking moved again, this time to the window of my bedroom. Knock, knock, knock. They were right outside, right there, inches away from me, separated only by glass and drywall. I clamped my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. Then a voice, muffled but clear enough to understand. A man's voice, calm and steady. "I know you're alone." I don't remember much after that. I think I passed out from fear, or maybe I've just blocked it out. The next thing I remember is my mom shaking me awake in the closet the next morning. Kyle was in huge trouble. The police came and took a report, but there was nothing to find. No footprints, no evidence, nothing. But my mom believed me. She installed extra locks the next day and never worked another night shift until I was old enough to drive. I'm 32 now. I live in an apartment in Dallas with 2 deadbolts and a security camera pointed at the door. I still can't sleep when I hear knocking. When I was 12, we lived in a 2-story house in upstate New York, just outside of Syracuse. It was an old house, built in the 1920s, with all the quirks you'd expect. Creaky floors, drafty windows, and a basement that always smelled like damp earth. I hated that basement. The door to it was in the kitchen, and it had an old-fashioned latch lock, the kind you lift and drop into a metal loop. My parents kept it latched at all times because the stairs were steep and there was no railing. One Saturday afternoon in January, both my parents went to pick up my grandmother from the airport. They'd be gone for about 4 hours. I was old enough to stay home alone, and honestly, I was looking forward to it. I planned to make popcorn and watch movies all afternoon. Everything was fine until around 3 p.m. I was in the living room when I heard a noise from the kitchen, a soft click followed by a slow creak. I walked into the kitchen and felt my stomach drop. The basement door was open, not all the way, just a few inches, but it had definitely been latched. I remembered checking it that morning, a habit I'd developed because the basement scared me so much. I told myself the latch must have slipped. Old house, old hardware. These things happen. I walked over and pushed the door closed. I dropped the latch back into place, pressing hard to make sure it caught. Then I went back to my movie. 20 minutes later, I heard it again. Click, creak. I didn't want to look. Every instinct told me to stay on the couch, to keep my eyes on the TV, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. But I looked. The basement door was open again, wider this time, wide enough that I could see the first few steps descending into the darkness below. I couldn't move. I just stared at that black rectangle, waiting for something to emerge. Nothing did. After a long moment, I forced myself to walk back into the kitchen. My legs felt like they were filled with concrete. I reached out, grabbed the door, and slammed it shut. I latched it again, then dragged a kitchen chair over and wedged it under the handle. I stood there, staring at the door, my breath coming in short gasps. That's when I heard it, from below, from the basement. Footsteps on the wooden stairs, slow, creaking footsteps coming up. I ran out the front door without my coat, without my shoes, into the freezing January afternoon. I ran to the neighbor's house and pounded on their door until Mrs. Patterson let me in. When my parents got home, they called the police. 2 officers searched the house, including the basement. They found a sleeping bag behind the furnace, empty food wrappers, a pile of old newspapers arranged into a kind of nest. Someone had been living in our basement. The police said it looked like they'd been there for weeks, maybe longer. They must have been coming and going through the small window at the back of the basement, the one my dad kept meaning to fix because the lock was broken. They never found out who it was. We moved 3 months later. I'm 29 now and I own my own home. It's a single-story house, no basement. I made sure of that.